Corporation meeting to order at 4 p.m. First on the agenda is we will need to elect a chair for this meeting. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Stuart Jacobson.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Yes.
Thank you. Item number 3, public comment. Madam Secretary, do we have anyone who's signed up to speak?
No chair.
Okay, anyone here would like to speak? Okay, thank you. Item number 4, minutes. 4A, consideration of and action on the minutes of the June 18th, 2025 meeting. We have a motion.
Motion approved as written.
Okay, second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, passes 100%. Item number 5A, contracts and agreements. Amendment number 1 to the Economic Development Performance Agreement with First Colony Mall LLC. Consideration of and action on authorization of amendment number 1 to the Economic Development Performance Agreement with First Colony Mall LLC. And we have Tex Soriano, Senior Community Development Coordinator.
Howdy, John Soriano, Department of Redevelopment. I wanted to recognize a guest. We have Sinead Bankhead. She is the General Manager at Brookfield Properties here at First Colony Mall. In September of 2025, the Sugar Land 4B Board of Directors adopted a policy for a commercial revitalization grant program. And this program follows the city's strategic action plan, which prioritizes the redevelopment of key sites and fostering a commercial and residential redevelopment environment. And the purpose of this grant and this program is to promote new and expanded enterprises by stimulating redevelopment, reinvestment, and aesthetic improvements of our aging retail centers and commercial properties. Through this program, the city would like to see improvements that create activity centers, attractive public spaces, renovated storefronts and facades, and pedestrian-friendly settings. And we offer an incentive of up to 20% of eligible improvements, 20% of the cost. The Sugar Land 4B Corporation approved First Colony Mall's play area project under this program in March of this year. The approved project includes the installation of a new play area at the lawn at First Colony Mall, which is at the Outdoor Lifestyle Center area, with additional seating as well. The total projected cost and budget for this project from Brookfield Properties is $360,000, with an approved request of up to 20% reimbursed at the conclusion of the project, which is $72,000. According to their application, the goal of this project is to create a lively, family-friendly space that enhances the shopping experience, boosts foot traffic, and improves the overall atmosphere for shoppers, families, and other patrons. And the goal of this project is to be complete by the end of the year. As you can see, the project scope includes new seating options and a play area installed at their lifestyle center. The data's been really great for First Colony Mall. I mean, they have retail vacancies at a historic low. They've had an increase in taxable purchases over the last 4 years and positively trending visitor counts as well. They're an economic powerhouse for the city and one of our key partners. And out of all of Sugar Land's commercial properties, First Colony Mall receives the most visitors with more than 7.4 million visitors annually. Very impressive numbers there. Pictured on these 2 slides coming up are the initial designs that were proposed to the board when this project was approved in March. This was the play structure from Lucky Climber, and this is the one from the vendor called Lodestar Recreation. And the terms of the performance agreement that was approved by the board is as follows. This is a 2-year performance agreement. Construction must be completed within 1 year from the notice to proceed being issued to the contractor. And after completing the project, First Colony Mall will have to submit reimbursement paperwork showing the project's completion and the amounts paid so that they can get reimbursed. And then they must create or maintain at least 10 employees at the lifestyle center. After commencing the project, First Colony Mall actually identified a third potential playground design that it would like to implement instead of the original 2 that I just showed you. And this design is pretty different than what was originally presented, which is why I'm bringing this item back to you. to accommodate this change and to allow some flexibility in delivering the best possible play area project that they think is appropriate for the site. Staff recommends amending the original performance agreement to allow for First Colony Mall to execute their project in a form that is substantially similar to the original improvements that was presented. And you can see the candy theme, and they firmly believe that this is around what they want to do with the site and with their project. And it should be noted that Brookfield Properties has offices across the country. They have a multi-tiered approval process for procurement and purchasing, which is why this flexibility is also being kind of requested from them as well. Staff believes that offering this flexibility through the performance agreement amendment is appropriate for this type of project. And especially since they're one of the city's most important commercial partners. The reimbursement incentive that was originally approved of $72,000 will still remain the same. It'll come out of our reserve for opportunities and be paid out of fiscal year 26 after the project's completion. And with that, staff recommends the approval of the performance agreement amendment between the Sugar Land 4B Corporation and First Colony Mall LLC.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
Couple questions. So from a requirement standpoint, what changed necessarily to drive the push for this playground? Was it just the candy theme, or was it anything related to the kids? Like they think they're gonna like the third design better? What was the initiative there?
Based on the feedback I received from First Colony Mall, the candy theme was a big part of it. I mean, we are Sugar Land, but one of their main priorities for this project is to complete it on time. They have their own budget throughout the year. They really want to complete this in a timely manner. And based on the two playgrounds that I showed you before, one of the vendors shown was able to meet that deadline and meet the time requirement that they have on their side, which is what kind of pushed them to kind of go that direction. But ultimately, they really want to pick the right product that fits their space and will get approved by the organization as well. So
It's not like time was the biggest factor here.
yeah, time is a big factor.
You want to show the other two just so I can see what it.
Oh, sure, yeah. I know you here yet. So here's the first one.
Is that one similar to what they have at RPC? I know a lot of kids love that design.
Yeah, and here's the
That
second one
one.
too. I will say that this particular vendor, Lucky Climber, they're not based here in Texas, and so this wasn't really going to work with the timeline that they wanted. So
I have one question. With the lack of canopy in the final design, do you think it will affect the usage by the children?
Director Singhal, can you please repeat your question? I didn't quite hear you.
No, so I'm saying that in the latest design, there is no canopy. So would it affect the usage by the children?
He's saying the canopy. There's no canopy coverage.
The First Colony Mall did consider the option of adding a shade structure, but with their budget for this year, it wouldn't quite fit with the other seating improvements that they're doing. But it is something being considered.
Any other question?
Sinead, do you want to?
Okay, so yeah, we actually, I mean, we didn't include it in
Sure.
yeah, but we did add new shade. The shades are already installed, so we did install the new shades, so we're good.
Yeah, I thought I drove by there yesterday and the shades were there.
Yes, we did. It's because we had to add that extra layer of protection to get ready for the play area.
Yes.
Okay.
Questions? We need a motion.
Move to approve.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? All in favor, say aye. Sanjay, raise your hand so we can, if you, aye, okay.
I approve.
It passes 5-0. Thank you very much, John. So the next item, what's going to happen is we're going to hear from staff. They're going to explain it. And then we're going to have open a public hearing. And then when the public hearing is over, we'll close the public hearing. I'll read the item again, and then we'll be able to ask staff questions, okay? So item 6A, public hearing, receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on Sugar Land 4B Corporation Resolution Number SL4BR 2507, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Sugar Land 4B Corporation approving a request by the City of Sugar Land to fund the design of improvements for Eldridge Park. And we have Carla Barrios and we have Fung Lin Du.
good afternoon, Board of Directors. My name is Carla Barrios. I am an engineer within the engineering department. I wanted to introduce some of our staff that is a part of this project as well. We have Willie Mahajic, Assistant Director of Parks and Rec. We have Feng Lin Du, our Parks Development Manager, and then in the back we have Ryan Gilmore, our Recreation Supervisor. We'll be going over the Eldridge Park Improvements CIP CPK 2504. So a little bit of background, Eldridge Park is Sugar Land's most visited park. It welcomes over 128,000 visitors and over 639,000 visits annually. Eldridge Park is home of the city's major soccer complex to both open play and part of the league events. So we have 2 independent soccer leagues that currently are within Eldridge Park. The Eldridge Park was built in 2002, so obviously the park is over 20 years old. A couple of things are aging, and so with that comes replacement or repairs. A couple of those things that we'll mention are irrigation, drainage, and I'll keep going through them as we go through the slides. So just to get familiar with the project location, Eldridge Park is these blocks that you see around red. To the right of it is Eldridge Road. To the south of it is West Airport Boulevard. And then to the north and to the west side, we have City of Sugar Land city limits. Let's move on to the project scope. So overall, we have a couple of things that we'll be discussing within the project scope. But one of the major things that we're trying to do is we're trying to modernize the irrigation system. That means full replacement of the irrigation throughout the park. We're also trying to convert one of the existing natural grass soccer fields to synthetic turf. Now, prior to scoping this out, we did have discussions with the leagues. And one of the major concerns that they kept bringing up was the irrigation is past its useful life. There's concerns with basically wear and tear due to improper irrigation throughout Eldridge Park. One of the things that we also discussed with the league was the interest of conversion of one of the fields to turf. Now, what does that do is that it provides basically lower maintenance. It's aesthetically pleasing as we see a green field throughout the year. And then also it's all weather usability. So if there's rain, these fields right now may get muddy. They're not able to be utilized, but with the turf field, we're able to utilize it year round. So after it rains, that water would basically drain off, but we would be able to utilize the field. And then overall durability as well. We've added some pictures on here so that you could see the issues that we're having with the irrigation. We have lack of head-to-head coverage, so you're able to see these bare spots with circle coverages. And this is just the aerial map from Google. A couple other things that we have drainage concerns throughout the parking lot area. Also, just upgrading new site features throughout Eldridge Park. As we know, the park is aging, so are the features. So this is a good opportunity to kind of liven things up and bring new things to this park. Going over drainage concerns that we have, after it rains, typically that water evaporates. You see it go away within an hour to a day max, but we're not seeing that water leaving. It's staying stagnant and it's creating growth bats. So there's concerns about, mosquitoes there, slip hazards. Also, if someone's visiting here, no one wants to step into a puddle of water. So it can create, some people maybe potentially leaving. So that's something that we want to make sure that we go through as we work through this project. Site features, as we go through design, we'll be mentioning different site features that we would basically put in a list and prioritize based off of budget availability. But one of the concerns that we currently have that we, while we went and did a site visit, we noticed that this seating wall for the playground, it seems to be kind of falling apart. It's something that lasted a long time, but now that it's past its useful life, we do see some safety concerns with that. So that's something that we want to tackle with this project as well. So again, just to kind of give you an overall view of the different fields and what we would like to do. So irrigation would occur throughout the entire Eldridge Park. So that would be brand new irrigation. Conversion of one of the natural grass soccer fields would occur within the yellow boundaries on the left side of this map. And again, it's just one conversion of one soccer field to artificial turf. All the drainage concerns are occurring on the back side of the property where we currently have the parking lot. I placed the playground seating wall so that you're able to see currently where it's placed, but we're gonna be looking at site amenities throughout the property. And we have this little blue section here where we're looking at an ad alternate that we really want to consider some innovative things. So we went back and took a look at the feedback that we received on public services being provided here at the city of Sugar Land. We almost reached 50% of people saying the same thing, and that's that they want to see additional sports and recreational opportunities here in Sugar Land. So some of those examples are pickleball, tennis, or basketball. So again, going back to that ad alternate of things that we really want to include, we're trying to find an innovative solution that we can place here at Eldridge Park that has a multi-sport solution. So it's not just related to soccer. It could be converted to other things. So we have an example of one that our teams has been able to do some research on just really quickly. We have Musco Mini Pitch as an example, and that's the bottom picture on the right side. Musco Mini Pitch basically developed this field with the US Soccer Foundation, and it was utilized for soccer, but also futsal, which is a sport that's played worldwide. I know we don't see it often here in the States, but worldwide, it's something that is often played, and it's a smaller version of soccer, much faster pace, smaller groups of about 5 within each team. But the one thing that we found extremely innovative with the mini pitch is that you were able to purchase these add-ons, right? So you're able to use this field not only for soccer, not only for futsal, but you can convert it as they have here. They added basketball hoops, so it could be converted for basketball. Again, one more thing that can be converted to it would be pickleball or tennis. So what they would do is they would restripe inside those fields within the field boundary. And so you would be able to utilize it for different types of sports. And so again, I just wanted to quickly go over everything again. So throughout the entire Eldridge Park, new irrigation. On the left side, there would be a conversion of a soccer field from natural grass to synthetic turf. We have drainage issues that are happening up at the north that we want to address. We have the playground seat wall, and we're going to be looking at amenities throughout the park to upgrade. And then as an ad alternate, what we're looking at is that modular multi-sport solution going in currently in that blue area where we have open play. So overall, the project promotes physical activity, community engagement, and public wellness while enhancing Eldridge Park as a premier recreational destination for Sugar Land. It also fosters economic and social benefits by enhancing public amenities that attract visitors and strengthen our community ties. By investing in this critical recreational asset, the city of Sugar Land is demonstrating its commitment to encouraging physical and mental health while improving the quality for all who live, work, and play in this area. A little bit of history. So in August 2024, the SL4B board recommended the approval of the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget to members of City Council, which included allocating $200,000 towards the design of the Eldridge Park improvements. This is a CIP budgeted project that was approved in the CIP book by the SL4B board and City Council for fiscal year 2025. And although this budget was approved in the fiscal year 2025 budget, a funding resolution is still required by the SL4B board. So as of right now, we have done a comprehensive review of qualifications according to policy PU 109 for the consultant selection. Now that occurred in March 2025. So around the end of March towards April, we started setting up a scoping meeting to discuss the overall location of the park and then discuss some general scope of work that we would like included. So throughout April through now, June of this year, the city finalized that scope of work that would go into the design. And then we also finalized negotiations with the selected firm. So future steps, today we're here for recommendation for approval of the SL4B funding, resolution number SL4B-R-25-07. Future steps that we're looking ahead towards is we plan to take this for City Council design contract approval on August 5th, 2025. And then upon approval from City Council, we plan to issue a notice to proceed. That notice to proceed is approximately 8 months. So we are expecting an end time of design phase to occur sometime in April 2026. And then funding for construction would still be requested through fiscal year 26 budget process as part of the CIP. And I just want to remind everyone that, again, this one is just for approval of the funding for the design phase. So we would still come back later on for construction. And another thing that I want to note is most likely our team will be going to the Parks Board at around 60 or 90% design. And then we'll be coming back to the SL4B board around 90% as well. And with that, staff recommends the SL4B board hold a public hearing for resolution number SL4B-R-25-07, authorizing a total funding of $200,000 for the design of the Eldridge Park improvements.
Okay, thank you, Carla. It is 4:20 and we're going to open the public hearing, and just to make sure that I don't miss anything, I'm going to read this again. Receive and hear all persons desiring to be heard on Sugarland 4B Corporation Resolution Number SL4B R-2507, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Sugarland 4B Corporation approving a request by the City of Sugarland to fund the design of improvements for Eldridge Park. Madam Secretary, has anyone signed up?
No, Chair, there has not been.
Okay, is there anyone here who would like to be heard about this item? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing at 4:21. And now we're going to go talk about the resolution. Don't go far, Carla. Consideration of and action on Sugarland 4B Corporation Resolution Number SL4BR 2507. A resolution of the Board of Directors of the Sugarland 4B Corporation approving a request by the City of Sugarland to fund the design improvements for Eldridge Park. And I'm going to go ahead and start a couple questions. Do I understand correctly that the 4B has already approved the 200,000, but in order to push it into the next year's budget, we have to reauthorize it? Is that correct?
No.
No.
Devin. Per the 4B statute under the Texas Local Government Code, the 4B needs to approve a funding resolution. So it's an action that you have to take in terms of approving that funding resolution, saying, yes, this project is an eligible project under the 4B statute.
I understand. Okay. And just to make it clear, all we're doing is we're authorizing the funding of design. All the amenities and everything that you just talked about are really not in question here in this meeting. Those things will be in the final design, at which point we or another one of our bodies here will get the chance to approve or not.
That is correct.
Okay. So do we have any questions?
Yes, Stuart, I have questions.
So during the camp, the point of making some of the field turf as opposed to grass to prevent the rainouts and floodouts for some of the kids' camps or tournaments. What led to the selection of Eldridge versus some of the other parks such as Imperial? Any background to that one?
Yeah, so it was a tough choice, but we know we have to start somewhere. And we know that this would be an excellent pilot project to see if artificial turf is something that we want to proceed with for other fields. And I'll give you an example. A lot of our maintenance is done by our in-house awesome Jorge and his crew. But YSA's, Ryan's in the back there, he can explain a little bit more, but he's our recreation supervisor, does an awesome job managing our YSAs. And there's some things the YSAs need to do to manage the fields as well. But we mow and irrigation, and then the field, and then the YSAs manage like goal mouths and lips and infield chalking and all that stuff. And so we really looked at all of our fields, and Eldridge had the most opportunity for improvement. It has got a very heavy clay soil out there, and with the irrigation system not working very well over the last couple of years and the breaks that we've been having, it just really led to a lot of undulating soil surfaces. And with all the other improvements, we thought with the irrigation coming in as well, we thought there would be a great opportunity to do a pilot on artificial turf. Artificial turf does not require irrigation, so you would really need to modify the existing irrigation anyways. And so when in so doing, replacing the irrigation, it gives us an opportunity, a great opportunity for artificial fields. Not saying that we don't want to put them elsewhere. It's just we thought this was a good park to start at.
Okay, sort of a trial.
And you can stripe the fields different sports. So when Carla talked about multi-sport, we would work with Ryan and the leagues to see what other sports they want to stripe it to. Obviously, the more stripes you have, and the artificial turf, the more confusing it gets, but there is opportunity to do some dual sports on this. And then this is just a heavily played league, and they're the ones that have been vocal about, the drainage isn't great at Eldridge, the irrigation, needs to be improved, and we're just getting rained out a lot. So we just, with all those factors combined, we thought this would be a great park for that.
Any ballpark for the total cost after this moves forward?
Yes, sir. I believe the CIP budget has around 2 million total. So with $200,000 design, that leaves us about $1.8 million for construction.
Now, which funds does this come from?
That's
4B.
4B.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Sanjay up there, you got one?
Yeah. Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. One is in the picture which was shown, is the entire yellow area is going to be put with the turf or only portion of it?
So, the budget only allows for we're looking likely the budget's gonna allow only for one field. So in that yellow area, we would work with the YSA, with Ryan and his team, with Jorge and the maintenance team to pick the field that we would pick, one of those fields. And that would be like the premier field. So, artificial turf, is more than just throwing down, artificial turf on like existing soil. There's excavation, there's drainage, and then crushed concrete typically with French drainage, and then artificial turf. Because again, you're taking away that artificial turf. And I'm gonna be honest with you, we have done some site visits on artificial turf, but we haven't done, this will be our first field. So it's gonna be a learning curve for all of us, including the YSA. But the YSA has done artificial fields.
YSAs are.
Sorry, Youth Sports Association. They have done other parks, artificial turf fields, and they love them. They absolutely love them because of the playability and the ability to get out them on them right away. So if there's an opportunity for the YSA, Youth Sports Association, to pitch into this project and do more than one field, we're happy to consider that. We've thrown that offer out there. We haven't gotten a lot of feedback yet on it, but we would do more than one if funding were to become available. If not, it looks like the funding is going to keep us right at one field. Hope that answers the question.
Let me repeat that. So
Sanjay has the floor. Sanjay, do you have any more questions?
So I have another question is, once we approve this funding, this will still be tendered to different design company. Is that right?
This will be shopped around to different design companies.
So we've already gone through the process of selecting the consultant. So we would be taking it to council for approval of the contract for the design phase.
Yeah. My only suggestion would be that in the past, I have seen in the last 1 month that we only go to one design company, which we don't know if we are getting the right price or not. So it will be good to tender that out. That's not related to award of the funding. So I'm okay with funding for now, but that's my sincere request if we can make sure that at least we get competing quotes to make sure we get the good price.
So during design, we'll be receiving opinion of probable costs, OPCCs, and that would let us know our budget. So our design would be adjusted throughout the process of design phase based off of the budget that we currently have.
No, I'm not talking
have a
of tendering of the
competitive process
1.8 million.
for selecting design companies.
I am talking about selection of the design company because it seems to go to one company only, which may raise question about whether the price is right or not.
So for consultant selection, it's based off of qualifications, not per price.
I agree, unless this is the only company authorized or qualified to do this work.
Is this the only company that's qualified to do this work?
So there are several companies, but we've gone through the process of vetting out the different consulting firms, and we've selected the most qualified.
And we have reason to believe that this is a fair price.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we've entered into negotiations with them.
Okay, so we didn't just take their first offer. Does that help, Sanjay?
Okay, no, that helps.
Okay, Alan, did you have a question?
I think you kind of covered that. The whole is drainage to me. And so when you redo the irrigation, I assume we're gonna crown everything so we get the proper runoff.
So in this particular project, we probably don't have the construction funds to regrade every field. So we're gonna look at the parking lot and this as part of their scope. And then definitely the one artificial turf field would have the drainage included with that. Yes, sir.
We're gonna have mud puddles.
In some of the fields, yes, until maybe another phase comes along. Yes, sir. If there's some additional funding that we can identify or some, the cost comes back lower than what we calculated, then maybe there's some additional opportunities at this park. But what she has identified is what we're gonna probably stick to.
You know, this Mercer Fields had artificial turf for 25 years and it doesn't get quite the play, but it's held up wonderfully.
Yes, sir. Thanks for pointing that out. A lot of people are moving to artificial turf. And we're excited about the opportunity to get a modern artificial turf that has some of the advantages of almost like real turf. We've already started looking at some different brands. We've had a couple of sales pitches come talk to us, and it's been phenomenal. And the product seems to be improving every year. So if Mercer is that great, we're thinking the modern turf is going to be even better. But the consultant's going to help us pick the correct turf and drainage and all that. That's really what we're going to lean on them for. But good point.
Mary?
Well, from a comment perspective, I like the fact that we're addressing safety concerns both from drainage and the safety wall. And I think it's good that we're investing proactively in a park that's over 20 years old with high usage. So thank you.
Would anybody like to?
There's also evidence that artificial turf fields are safer as well, more safe than natural grass fields.
Rob, you have one more question?
Yeah, one more follow-up. So talking about the scope, you're talking about drainage. So when you guys are doing your design phase, you were saying you're only gonna update one field, which is you're still gonna have drainage issues down the road, correct? Does the design phase cover the fix for everything, just not the funds to fix it? Or are we only designing for that one, premier field, and then we don't have a solution for drainage for the rest of the park still?
I'll let Carla answer that, but I'll just add a little bit. The YSAs have some due obligation to crown their own fields. Some of the YSAs do a better job than others, but like lips on baseball fields and soccer fields, it's their job to cut the lips. And lips create drainage issues. So what I'm gonna say is, we want to work with the youth sports associations to do the best job we can for our kids in our sports fields. But there's some obligation for the soccer fields to fix their own goal mouths, for example, and not have bird baths on the fields. So there's definitely a balance there. But I will say that there is drainage swales between the fields right now. But being that it's not artificial turf and it's natural park, there's just been some soil movement throughout the 20-something years it's been open. But as far as the design.
So as far as design, our main focus for drainage is going to be that parking lot area. And then the new additions, which would be the turf field and potentially the ad alternate. Now, if we get to design and realize that the ad alternate is out of our budget, maybe we can reallocate some of those design funds to focus more on the design throughout the park. But as of right now, the entire park is assumed that it is working the way it should be where the fields are currently at.
Okay. Seems like a pretty flexible scope. Seems like the other 5 fields are kind of out of the scope from what you guys said. Interesting.
Pretty much until we can further get into design a little bit more and see what else we could do. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody, any more? Okay, we need a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Motion be approved.
Sanjay, I didn't hear you.
I was saying I will make a motion.
Okay, I think he was first. Do you want a seconder? Okay, Sanjay moved and Alan seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, William. Number 7A, budget, proposed fiscal year 2026 budget. Review of and discussion on the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget. You have Justin Mejorado, Assistant Director of Budget. And I will mention that we're not adopting the budget today. This is just informational. It's a workshop. Justin, given that, would you like questions after the presentation or during the presentation?
I'll take them either way.
Okay,
I'll
fine.
address them as they go.
But please do ask to be recognized. Members, please ask to be recognized. Go, take it away, Justin.
So I'd like to start. We did meet with the budget subcommittee last week to review the proposed budget. I'd like to open up if there are any comments you all would like to make regarding the meeting that we had last week.
No, we covered everything and you answered my questions about the year-to-year projections. How we come in ahead of that and it's certainly easier to defend than the other way.
And during that meeting that we had, I thought it was good that they pointed out, we discussed that our sales tax is the conservative budget. It is very volatile as we move forward based on new businesses and how businesses enter their transactions. And we also have the process of budget amendments during the year. The ones that were in the budget were ones that we had gone through in the various presentations. So I felt like all of our concerns were addressed. It was very forward thinking as we look forward.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here this afternoon. Today we'll be holding that annual budget workshop to review 4B proposed budget. This afternoon, we're going to give you a quick overview of the Sugar Land 4B. We'll look at some of the highlights for the current fiscal year and what the year-end projections are looking like, and then we'll look at that fiscal year 26 proposed budget. So I'll start off with just giving a brief overview. The 4B was created back in February of 1995 to promote, assist, and enhance economic development and quality of life opportunities here in the city, all funded by a voter-approved 1/4-cent sales tax rate. The charts that we have here show that state maximum of 8.25%, with a 2% being allowed for local allocation. Sugar Land takes advantage of that full 2%, and we split it 75% between our general fund and 12.5% between each of our sales tax corporations. And I do have Devin here. She's going to go over some of that history and a little more background of some of the great things that the 4B has accomplished since inception.
Thanks, Justin. So yeah, before Justin gets into some of the nitty-gritty numbers of the budget, I wanted to just add a little bit of color and history to 4B corporations in the state of Texas and how Sugar Land has utilized the 4B corporation. So some of the history is almost 40% of Texas cities have formed type B corporations. And so you can see on the map there all the 4B corporations that exist in the state of Texas. Since 1995, when our corporation was created, over 143 million has been generated from that 1/4-cent sales tax. And unlike type A, just an easy way to remember, type B can do everything that type A can do, but plus quality of life in terms of the eligibility of those projects. All right, so here's just kind of a breakdown of the general fund. The sales tax is the largest revenue source, making it 42%, and then property tax being the second. Just the main takeaway is that economic development, these corporations, both the 4A and the 4B, it was very intentional financial strategy of creating these for economic development and being able to really play a vital role in funding a lot of our quality of life, a lot of our infrastructure, and a lot of our community amenities. And so I have some, I'm not quite there yet, okay. Here are the eligible projects, and we're also going to cover this in more detail, I believe next month or the month after, when we'll have our annual board orientation on the corporation. But it can fund a variety of projects from, economic infrastructure, roads, drainage, site work for new businesses, also the parks and public amenities. This is something that we have utilized heavily in the city of Sugar Land for our 4B funding. Also, tourism destination projects. Our Constellation Field was funded with our 4B corporation sales tax dollars. We've also been able to use it for our recent effort and focus on redevelopment. So it's supported streetscapes, facade improvements, and infrastructure in our target region. And then finally, what we haven't used it for much recently, since we have the 4A corporation, but it can do the workforce and innovation type things. At the beginning,
Devin,
yes,
and public art.
and public art.
That was a question that came up recently.
I'm sorry, it's on the parks and public amenities. I just didn't mention it specifically. It says cultural arts, public art. We have used the 4B corporation annually, and you'll see it in the numbers today, towards our public art program. So here's just some examples of some of the 4B projects that have been done over the years. The pump track, the Mayfield Park basketball court mural that was unveiled, that was in the last 6 to 9 months. Of course, Constellation Field, I already mentioned. Recently, the 4B approved the incentive for Lake Point Green, and that is to provide civic space in that new development. The lawn at First Colony Mall, another example of amenities created in a public space. Also, you know, the Highway 90 beautification and widening, Eldridge Park, other infrastructure and facade improvements in Sugarland Town Square, the Museum of Natural Science, as well as the remodel that was done in the last 5 years. And then the softball field land acquisition. So 4B, we have a whole spreadsheet of everything that's been done, you know, over the last 30 or so years. But just wanted to give you a feel for some of the projects that 4B has done and to kind of add a little bit more of maybe some context to some of the numbers that you'll see today. So with that, I will hand it back over to Justin.
Thank you, Devin. So kind of jumping back into the budgetary stuff here, when we look at the proposed budget, we look at the income statement, we can generally kind of categorize all that activity and the great things that have been done into these 4 categories. First being the capital projects funding, right? Debt service, which is a repayment of the outstanding debt on sales tax revenue bonds that the 4B has issued. And we do have a couple of scheduled transfers out. That includes Star City's general fund, the debt service fund, and that civic art funding, providing that for the civic art programming. And then lastly, the economic development program, which includes the operating budget for the staff that go and administer those Type B projects, as well as incentives and sponsorships. And then lastly, the reserve for opportunity. So we'll get into these in a little more detail as we get into the proposed budget. So jumping into fiscal year 25 and looking at some of the highlights, the first and foremost is going to be the sales tax revenues that fund all of this. We've had really strong performance this year and past years. On the left side, we can see historically over the last 4 fiscal years, we've been coming in performing strong against budget. And then year to date for fiscal year 25 through June, we had roughly 10% on average performance over the budget amounts. So as our subcommittee, as Alan mentioned, you may wonder why we're so higher compared to so much higher than compared to the budget. We do have our financial management policy statements that guide our revenue forecasting, and they have been very conservative. Last year, the previous council did update those financial management policy statements to be a little more aggressive and capture some more CPI adjustments in the first year of the forecast. The current policy indicates that year 1 of that forecast will be that new CPI factor, with year 2 being the 5-year average of that CPI, and then years 3 through 5 at 3%. If this trend continues to the end of fiscal year 25, we're looking at roughly 900,000 in additional sales tax revenue than what we originally estimated. On the expenditure side, some more additional highlights aside from the strong sales tax performance. We've had one budget amendment this year, and that was back in May, and that was for the implementation of Resolution 2506, which the board approved back on May 6th, which authorized that 7 million in 4B funds for that 5+ acres of park and civic space at Lake Point Green. 3.4 of that did come from the reserve for opportunities, and 3.6 from the available fund balance. So in addition to that 3.6, we did have 2 other uses of reserve for opportunities. One of those would be an additional 31,000 for the approved fund grant projects, just based on the projects that ended up getting selected for this year's programming. And then we also had an additional 392,000 in additional funding for the splash pad over at Memorial Park. Kind of bringing this all together and looking at how we're going to end fiscal year 25 with additional sales tax revenue and interest income with that higher than anticipated beginning fund balance. Looking at 1.2 million in additional revenues by year end. The expenditures are going to remain as budgeted at 15 million. And so that 1.2 in additional revenues will fall to the ending fund balance and are available, leaving us with 11 million over the policy requirement. Which is constituted as 15% of the budgeted sales tax for the year. Additionally, the corporation does maintain a bond coverage ratio. The minimum for that is 1.25 times coverage. And we're setting at a really healthy 6 times coverage. So with that, I'll take any questions on fiscal year 25 before I move into 26.
I have a question, Steve.
Sanjay,
Yeah. So how much is the total debt currently on this fund?
what's the total debt on 4B?
Total debt currently outstanding is going to be 16.3 in principal. Yes, sir.
16.3. Okay.
Anything else, Sanjay, follow up or no?
No, that's all from my side.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Jumping into fiscal year 26 proposed budget. On the revenue side, our sales tax is coming in estimated at 9.6 million for the year. Again, that includes that annual CPI adjustment on our recurring revenues from the current year. We do have interest income at 650,000, and that's based on our $15.9 million beginning fund balance and a portfolio yield of 4.27%. The chart on the right here just kind of illustrates the various investment vehicles that those funds are currently sitting in. For the 4B, the majority is in agencies at 58% and 25% in cash. Additionally, in prior years, in our miscellaneous revenue, we did have parking lot lease revenue from Constellation Field coming into this fund at roughly 80,000. Starting in FY26, those funds are being redirected to the general fund to further support the redevelopment program. And then lastly, we had TERS 1 assignments with fund or that district dissolving here in December. We're receiving the last payment in fiscal year 5.
Justin, one of the things that I'm going to bring up when we have our workshops for the city budget is our estimated interest income. Are we projecting 427 throughout the whole year? Because I would recommend that we ratchet it down because we're talking about going all the way through September of 26, which is a long time out.
So not only will we keep an eye on what the benchmarks and what the actual portfolio is doing as we go through that monthly financial process, we'll be making adjustments for projections next year as well to make sure that we're not overestimating that.
Oh, did you ask? Okay, thank you.
Like 3.5?
If I was gonna do level, it would be probably 3.5, very reasonable. Anyway, keep going, please.
So with that, we'll jump into expenses. So we'll start with the economic development program, which is inclusive of a couple different things. The first being the program budget, which sets at roughly $1 million. That covers the operating costs such as marketing, professional services, travel expenses, things of that nature. We do have a separate $500,000 set aside for sponsorships in FY26. 250,000 of that is going to be for a FIFA sponsorship, the World Cup coming to Houston next year, and then 250,000 to continue supporting the Sugar Land Town Square events here with the TERS 1 funding going away. We also have 893,000 planned for incentives in FY26. The biggest of those is going to be 750,000 for phase 2 of the Sugar Land Town Square improvements. And we have 70,000 or 73,000 for the commercial facade program and 70 for a potential payout for that First Colony Mall sales tax performance agreement. And lastly, we do have a reserve for opportunities at 2 million for FY26. This will be an annual expenditure appropriation depending on what our available fund balance and revenues are in any one year. This allows the 4B board and the staff to take advantage of opportunities as they arise, without additional steps needed to come back to the board and back to council for a budget amendment. Typically, the use of that R4O will be presented to this board and approved via funding resolution. So on the outstanding debt side, the 4B Corporation does have one outstanding issue of sales tax refunding bonds that was done back in 2019. That's refunded roughly 26 million in principal for 3 different issues. That being Series 2011, which was originally issued for Constellation Field, a previous refunding back in 2010, and then Series 2005 for the Town Square parking improvements here in Sugar Land Town Square.
Justin, these are revenue bonds, right? In other words, property taxes don't go to pay for this, just sales tax revenues go to pay for this. It's not on the whole city, it's just on the income from our 1/4 cent sales tax, right?
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
Okay.
These are solely obligations of the 4B Corporation.
Okay, thank you.
Going into fiscal year.
I have one question, Stuart.
Go ahead, Sanjay.
Yeah, what is our rate of the debt interest on these bonds? What percentage?
I have to go back and look at that, but the standard has been roughly around 4% total interest cost.
Yeah, Sanjay, I've been around for 6 years. We've been getting pretty good rates in the high threes. Now they're in the fours, but back when we did this refunding, it's probably in the threes, I would say.
So if we can get that information.
Yeah, would you please,
Okay.
Justin, you can send it out.
Yeah, no, that is good. The reason I was checking is we are getting 4.5 in our holding, the cash which we have. So I was hoping we are not paying more than that, which is fine.
We are, I can say with reasonable certainty that we are not.
Yeah, okay.
What's covered in the 2010 refunding, by the way?
I was struggling to find documents, going back that far. We do have some physical files in our file room that I could probably go back and see what was included in that refunding. I'm curious. I can put that together as well with the total interest cost.
Is that something that you want him to do, or are you okay?
Not with any urgency.
Okay.
So going into fiscal year 26, this one debt issue does have 16 million in outstanding principal and will mature in fiscal year 36. When it does, we'll free up roughly 1.8 million in funding capacity from the 4B with that debt service requirement dropping off. So next up is our capital improvement program. Typically our capital projects in the 4B are funded via two avenues, either non-bond transfers directly from the 4B or issuance of those sales tax revenue bonds. For fiscal year 26, we do have programmed in 2.1 million. The first 1.8 million of that is that construction phase of the design project that you all approved. And then second, we'll also have 300,000 set aside for potential selection of fund grant program projects. And then next up, we do have transfers to other funds. So here we have 1.35 million to the general fund. That's inclusive of salary reimbursements of 1.1 million. And then our cost allocation plan of just under $250,000.
And Justin, so the general fund of the city is paying the salaries of the people who are doing 4B work.
Correct.
So that's why we're sending money to the general fund.
Yes, sir.
Same thing with the debt service fund, the CO bonds that we use to purchase Imperial, 4B is paying for it, so we have to send that to the city.
Yes, sir. So those staff are budgeted within the general fund, but they go and they support administering these type B projects. The transfer the debt service fund, as you mentioned, is to go to repay 50% of those COs that were issued on the Imperial purchase. That allows us, rather than issuing separate debt, one for the SLDC and one for the 4B, we're able to issue these and schedule to repay them from multiple sources and have flexibility there. But again, totally supported by sales tax revenue, no property tax. And then lastly, on our transfer schedule, we have 250,000 going to that civic arts fund, and that is supporting civic arts programming there. So with that, bringing all the revenues and expenses together, we're looking at roughly 440,000 lower in revenues for fiscal year 26 compared to 25. That's going to be some of the one-time sales tax revenue dropping off in FY 26, as well as us spending down some of that fund balance this year in FY 25. Slightly lower interest income on that in 26. We do have 3 million less in expenditures, and that's the net impact of several different factors, including the 7 million that was spent for Lake Point in this current fiscal year, as well as the 2 million in the Constellation Field improvements in fiscal year 25, being the last year of that AAA Astros agreement, and then in addition to debt service requirements for the Imperial purchase. So these changes leave the corporation drawn down to 2.6 million in fiscal year 26 compared to the current year projections. We do still have a healthy ending fund balance of over $14 million. The available of 11 is 9.5 over that policy requirement, again, of 15% of the sales tax revenue. Bond coverage ratio setting at 5.87 times coverage.
So what you're saying is it's okay that we have the negatives on the net income line because we collected more taxes, sales taxes than we spend, and we built up a huge fund balance. And what we're doing is we're deploying some of that cash.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
With that, I'll take any questions on the proposed budget.
I think anything up there? Anybody, questions?
Nothing from my side, nothing.
This is silly, I suppose, but what's the difference between debt service and transfer to debt service fund?
You bring up a good point. So the debt service is on the sales tax revenue bonds that are solely the obligation of the 4B. The transfer to the debt service on paper obligations of the city's debt service fund, but we're transferring and fully supporting those with sales tax revenue into the city's general debt service.
So the general fund went ahead and issued bonds to buy Imperial, but we're paying them back with 4B
Okay,
and some others, so we have to give money to the city to pay those bonds. Okay, Rob, you got something?
I remember what I was thinking.
Sorry.
You're good, you're good.
Let's all look at Rob.
For the
Thank-
art fund, no, I got half my thoughts. So for the civic art fund, I would say just, support local would be a good proponent of that. The other one was, the list of projects. Do you have a list of projects that we were considering overall in terms of, let's say, important or strategic initiatives? Because obviously we're spending the 2 million for the park funding, I think in 26. What projects got passed up to focus the money on that? In terms of like the city's direction?
So currently I don't have a list of those projects. Maybe Carla, if you have anything on CIP through that process. Typically it's looking at what projects are in the draft CIP to see which ones are eligible for 4B.
Yeah, I mean, what Justin said is, our funds are only eligible for certain things. So if you're looking at all of the projects that are in the CIP, one, we have to narrow it down to what are the projects that we could use 4B funds for. Parks is a eligible funding source that we can use 4B, or eligible project we can use funding.
So what you mean is the CIP is the capital improvement plan for everything that we want to do for the city. And then we pick the things that are eligible to be paid for with 4B and 4A. And this is what came out. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. Now the director's report with Devin Rodriguez. Let's do. Remember, you're not allowed to ask questions during director's reports.
Yeah, so I have a little bit of that. So for our new board members, the director's report is an opportunity for us to share high-level updates of what's been going on. Projects, conferences, initiatives, led by our redevelopment team, our business development team, as well as our tourism team. Since the last meeting, so we do this every meeting, and so what you will see here are not all monetarily supported by 4B, but we do want to kind of give you the holistic view of everything that is being worked on, and a lot of these things touch one another, as well as some of the kind of split costs or shared costs as we leverage all of the funding sources that we have for economic development. So this is a report out, therefore no questions can be answered, but we're happy to follow up on things afterwards if you make requests. So for business development, on July 1st, the Sugar Land Development Corporation, or SLDC, 4A Corporation, approved a $2 million incentive for Applied Optoelectronics, or AOI is what we call it for short, to expand their footprint in Sugar Land and onshore manufacturing operations from Asia to North America. As the largest domestic producer of optical modules, they had to give me these notes since it is so specific. AOI has recently collaborated with Microsoft to develop custom chips tailored for the data center market. So AOI has been in Sugar Land for over 25 years. So this is an expansion and really a testament to that business being able to be grown here in Sugar Land and that long-term investment of our companies, as well as our commitment to them. The total capital investment for this project is $77 million and is expected to create 500 jobs over the next 5 years with an average annual salary of $61,000. I think that this is, one of the things that's really exciting about this is where they're expanding to. This building, it's an existing building. This is a redevelopment opportunity that is happening. This building has been vacant for almost as long as I've worked here at Sugar Land, and so I'm really happy to see this exciting project come to fruition. All right, Plug and Play, some updates on our Plug and Play initiative. Plug and Play, as a reminder, is a global company that helps connect new startups with extensive network of corporate partners, public partners, and venture capitalists to help these startups really gain access to valuable funding, mentorship, and exposure. Sugar Land partnered with Plug and Play in March of this year with an emphasis on the smart cities pillar, helping bring new ideas to how cities work and grow. That's been the emphasis that we have with Plug and Play. And through the first batch of startups, 10 startups were supported, all focused on solving city-related problems with new technology. So you'll see some of the metrics here. These startups raised over 6.5 million and landed 2 investments during the program. The program helped them connect directly with over 60 times and included over 50 events and activities to help them grow and get noticed and get that attention. And there was strong support from businesses, mentors, and investors. The startups have had 14 meetings with companies, 27 mentor sessions, and 10 meetings with investors. The startups also presented at 8 events and joined 14 in-person mentor sessions. So we're seeing some great traction on this partnership already. All right, some of our tourism updates from our Visit Sugar Land team. Our Visit Sugar Land team was thrilled to welcome Brick Rodeo back to the Houston Marriott right here in Sugar Land Town Square for the second time following their 2023 event. Brick Rodeo is a fan convention and exhibition showcasing intricate Lego creations, bringing together builders, collectors, and families from across the nation. Due to this year's success, the group is already in contract negotiations to return in 2027. So I was here working and going out to lunch with my family when this was here, and you could see not only the Lego creators, but the families that were coming to see the Lego creations, and everybody was all over Town Square. The estimated economic impact is over 275,000. We're going to be updating those numbers as we finalize some of those. The hotel occupancy for the event weekend, Friday through Saturday, averaged 85%, which is in line or slightly above our typical levels for the hotel occupancy. And then our marketing team also generated a ton of views and shares and also received local media coverage in the Fort Bend Star. And some of the attending feedback was just so overwhelmingly positive. It's not only this really unique convention, but also a really great family-friendly event. So this is exactly the kind of thing we want to continue to attract more of in Sugar Land. All right, the Visit Sugar Land Instagram account. If you're on Instagram, we hope you will follow us. The channel, which houses our most engaging and fastest growing audience, it keeps growing month by month. And this is organic growth. It's happening due to all of the content that we're sharing on our different events, grand openings, and collaborations with influencers. This consistent growth is really important. It is the more people that we can reach with our content means that the more people that are aware of what our destinations offer here at Sugar Land, continuing with our attractions and brand awareness and all the fun things to do in Sugar Land. All right, so some of our PR and marketing events. So this is really exciting. We landed in the New York Times. I think I kind of said that at our last director's report because it had happened that day. But the New York Times article highlighted our city's vibrancy, our welcoming environment, where diverse immigrant communities are flourishing. And it's celebrated our master plan communities, our top rated schools, low crime rate, abundant amenities like Sugar Land Town Square, Constellation Field, Sugar Land Space Cowboys. It also mentioned our Houston Museum of Natural Science, as well as our Children's Museum, which was great exposure for those museums to be in the New York Times. And this recognition just really underscores, all of the attention it builds, and then other outlets notice, and they're kind of wondering, what is the story that I really need to be telling that hasn't already been told? And so we can, if you haven't seen it, we can send a PDF of this after the meeting if you haven't read it. All right, some redevelopment updates. We had our, we participated in the centennial celebration that was put on by the Heritage Foundation. It was a great turnout. It celebrated 100 years of the Char House and the water tower. Really, hundreds of community members came and were in attendance, and we were just thrilled to see so many people there, as well as many of our council members. We were a proud sponsor and had a booth at the front entrance. It gave us a great opportunity to talk with the community and also give them updates on the Imperial redevelopment project. We gathered 57 new signups for our project webpage email newsletter. So it's great. It's just more opportunity for us to be able to keep everybody engaged and informed about what is going on with this very long-term project that we are underway. So, you know, I just a few little touch points of, we had a couple of residents that worked at Imperial Sugar for 30 years, and they showed up with their uniforms. And I just thought it was so wonderful. There was also a gentleman that drove, he lives in New Braunfels now, but he grew up here, and he was telling me about his memories of the Char House. His brother drove 6 hours, and they were going to then go visit their 95-year-old neighbor after the centennial celebration. So it really was a great opportunity of new and old and former community members all coming together and being able to celebrate in one spot. All right, in June, our team celebrated the installation of new neighborhood signs in the Hill, one of Sugar Land's oldest communities. This was part of our FUN grant, or Fostering Unique Neighborhoods. They unveiled 49 new light pole banners featuring the logo that was designed by one of the former Hill residents. I already mentioned it was funded in part by the FUN grant, as well as they fundraised for their portion to match our grant, and then also in-kind contributions that were given by members of the community to help put up these signs. So again, our team put together this video, and am I going to be able to play? Oh, okay, that's okay. We will send that video out later. We did do a video, and again, this is just a reminder to, I mentioned, follow us on Visit Sugar Land on Instagram, but we also have our LinkedIn. We also have posts that are going on the city's social media channels, and so there's a lot of great information and content that is being rolled out through those. All right, board headshots. At our next meeting in August, we're going to be capturing your headshots and a group photo for the board. This is something new. We have not done this before, and so we want to make sure our board has that visibility on our website and other materials as it makes sense. So we'll send more details and a reminder to you all before the August meeting, but just a little preview for you to get ready for your picture being taken. And then finally, as I already mentioned, stay engaged. Follow us on LinkedIn for weekly updates. There's great content, pictures, updates of all the great projects that are happening through the 4B. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Devin. Hold on. We have a motion to adjourn.